everyone, and welcome back to LABrary. I'm Miss Kathleen. Thank you for joining us today. I have a new challenge for you in a little bit. Today we're going to be learning about popcorn. A little bit about corn, but mostly about popcorn. Did you know that there are two basic kinds of popcorn? There is butterfly popcorn, which gets its name from the ruffly edges around it when it's popped. It looks kind of like a butterfly. And then there is a popcorn called mushroom popcorn. And it's more compact and rounded. It doesn't have the fluffy edges. And it's used more for caramel corn and corn balls, like caramel corn balls. So butterfly popcorn is used to make movie theater popcorn, or the kind of popcorn that you make at home in the microwave, or the kind of popcorn that comes in a bag like this, loose, that you can pop on the stove top. And I'm going to show you another way to pop it that you may not have heard of before. And then there are air poppers too that use hot air to pop the corn. And that kind of corn is meant to be eaten in like single pieces or by the handful. And then mushroom popcorn is the kind used to make caramel corn and caramel corn balls. Those are delicious. The reason I'm doing popcorn right now is because caramel corn seems to be something that is really popular in the fall around here. So where did corn come from? Did you know that corn is actually a human invention, the kind of corn that we eat today? And it can't exist naturally in the wild. It needs to have farmers looking after it. It needs to be cultivated and protected. And scientists believe that people living in central Mexico developed corn about 7,000 years ago. Started from a wild grass called teosinte. I don't know if that's how you say it. I should have looked that up. So there are three basic kinds of corn. There's sweet corn, which is the kind that we eat, that's like the corn on the cob, delicious. And then there's dent corn, and dent corn is the kind of corn that is used for animal feed and for making corn syrups and biofuels and bioplastics. If you have ever made anything with one of our 3D printers, you might already know then that the filament used for the 3D printers is a corn byproduct. So that comes from dent corn. So what are some of the things that you know already about corn? It has a distinctive flavor. Did you know that there are other varieties of corn? There is one called hominy, and that's used to make grits. And then there is Indian corn, which is mostly decorative and very colorful. And then there are the kind of corn, there's yellow and white, but there are many, many varieties of like corn on the cob or canned corn and frozen corn that we can eat. Okay, so I was going to show you how to pop corn in a way that you might not have seen before. So you take the kind of corn that comes loose like this. You would take a quarter cup of it and just put it in a plastic bag. Plastic, this is paper, obviously. So you'll put it in there, and then you'll just measure out a teaspoon of vegetable oil, whatever cooking oil you use. Don't use olive oil because that has a lower burn, like a smoking temperature. It'll burn the popcorn. It won't taste good. And then put it in the microwave, and don't use your microwave setting. Just listen for it to pop. I would start with 3 minutes, and then you can add like 30-second increments. And then there's, of course, just the commercial popcorn. The reason that I prefer this kind of corn is because the commercial popcorn that you can buy at the store is very delicious, but it's full of preservatives and additives and fake flavors. And I really just like the flavor of corn. And then when it comes out of the bag, you pour it in a bowl, and you can put butter or salt on it, and it's quite delicious. Okay, so here is our popcorn challenge for the week. First of all, I want you to look it up. You can look it up on the internet. You can check out a book from the library. Maybe you even have a book that tells you about different kinds of foods at your home. So look it up. How and why does it pop? And I also wanted you to take a look at, is this an American thing, popcorn, that we eat as a snack, or is this internationally accepted as a delicious snack? Okay, I want you to take notes. That is part of being a scientist, isn't it? You take notes. Pop some corn, whichever way you choose to do it, and I want you to notice the texture and the shape and the flavor, and then I want you to tell someone about it, okay? Maybe pop some corn for your family. Remember to share your notes with us, or maybe a picture of your popped corn, or if you decide to make some caramel corn balls or just some caramel corn, we would love to see a photograph of that. You can share it at Meridian Library on social media, or you can send it to me at Kathleen at mld.org. Okay, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Hello, my fellow librarians. Travis here, Mr. Travis here, and I'm in the middle of what you can see is a mess. I am in a mess because, as we know, as we always say in the nesting business, you can't build a nest without a mess. And so, I just made that up. That was funny. So what my challenge was last week was we're going to build a nest. A bird's nest. We've got to talk about what you would use if you were a bird to make a nest, the kinds of things you would use to put it together, and just sort of imagine, even like the size of your bird and that kind of thing to determine what you're going to use. And so I first, when I was doing this, I just gathered a bunch of stuff that if one of the birds in the trees around here in my house we're going to make a nest, what kind of stuff was available. So most of it is vegetation. I've got some, and I looked for stuff that was mostly loose, but I did cheat. I do have some scissors, and so I did cut a few things off as far as limbs and stuff. But I tried to get things that I found on the ground, so like dead twigs and that kind of stuff that had already fallen off, leaves, that sort of thing, like dead sort of fronds from plants. I've got some pictures here, some flowers, but then I also found some man-made stuff that a bird might find and might find helpful. So there's like things like, here's remnants of paper bags and napkins, paper towels. I even kind of cheated and, again, used the scissors and cut cut a little part off of a dog poop bag to line it so it's nice and waterproof. Oh, my bird is going to love this house, I hope. So I've got some photos here of the progress I made, a couple of observations just generally. Mud. You need a lot of mud. A lot of stuff to really kind of bind it. And one thing I found is that I was putting stuff down and then putting mud over it. And for me, it actually started to hold better if I put the mud down, put stuff over it, and then put mud. So it's layer mud, layer mud. The other big observation that I found, if I was a bird, which makes sense, because I wanted to take big things and put them in there and, something that's, that better fits in my hand. The one thing I found, birds don't take big things. They're going to take little things. The way to make a really nice nest and strong nest, you're going to take just little twigs and put them in methodically around and around and around, which I didn't necessarily do. As I started trying to build up the edges of my bird's nest, that's what I kind of started to do, pack in little bits. So it's obvious that the birds are going to take little things, and it's just going to take them a long time. But what else they got going on? That's what birds do. So here's my bird's nest. I'm kind of waiting for it to dry. I'll I'll take another shot here so you can kind of see it. And the only thing I guess if I was going to keep on building it, I guess I'd maybe try to build up the edges a little higher. The other thing that I thought I would be able to do is just build the nest and kind of compact it down, and that would automatically form the walls. That wasn't really working, so I actually had to build walls with just little pieces of twigs and leaves and that kind of stuff. Pretty ingenious little homes they built themselves, I have to admit. So, and it just shows like it's a lot of little, bits of work that make these things. And I'm sure when the birds do it, I've watched a few videos, they actually will go through and intertwine. They'll take twigs and they'll actually like twist things around to really hold things in, so it's not as dependent on mud. Because that's one thing I worry about. If this was to rain a lot, would my mud just all wash away and the thing just collapse? So anyway, here's sort of my narration to go over what I did. So to start my nest, I put down a solid foundation. So I got bigger twigs, I got some straws, that kind of thing, laid them out, and then packed that all in with mud. So I had almost like a raft. I built a raft for my nest. And then I kind of started crisscrossing small twigs and small little leaf branches to build it up from there. And then as I started going, then eventually I started figuring out that you probably need to put in the mud. So I started adding more mud. And then when it wasn't really working, just me trying to compress the middle of the nest, I figured I had to start building up the edges. So just using little twigs again and building up my walls. And, through there I implemented different things. Most of this stuff is just natural stuff I found that would come off trees and plants and bushes. I did throw in some paper towels, and a wet paper towel seemed to really help bind some stuff. And then again, I did kind of cheat and give a little tarp at the top with part of a poop bag. But to get that little tarp, I had to cut it out with some straws, or cut it out with some scissors. So let me show you. Let me get a closer view here. So here's my nest. You can kind of see the side of it here. So again, I built a little underneath it. There's a little raft with a bunch of mud, and then build it up, crossing, going up, and then kind of built around it. I'll give you a shot from above here. So there's the end product. Again, you can see the little poop bag in there. So that's my nest. I have to say, I'm impressed with the little birds. They're pretty darn good engineers. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for coming to the library. Thank you for watching. Hope you had fun with this. And I will have a new challenge next week. Thanks, guys.